men, femmes, thems, and toasters. It is Ultimate here as always. So 2 days ago, we actually hit 2,000 subscribers, which is crazy. I wanted to do a 2K special, and the majority either voted for the fact that they don't care, or, Q&A. So here we are. We have questions from both YouTube and Wattpad, and I'm going to read them aloud and answer all of your burning questions. I have tried to record this 2 times before, so I may have some quick answers, but from what I have seen, it's either weird or serious, and both of those are great. So let's get chaotic. Let's get into it. We're going to start on YouTube. We have Logan Malaret, who says, what was your favorite heart-to-heart moment in any of the books? Definitely when Moon confesses her love to Kibble in Book 10, Darkest of Dragons. That was absolutely my favorite. Adorable, honestly. And they also go on to ask, what was your favorite book so far? Definitely Book 8, Escaping Peril. Peril's my favorite character just in general, so a book starring her is perfection. We have plenty of questions from Fern the Hive Wing, so we're going to do a speed round. If you could be any tribe, what would you be? Rainwing. Favorite queen/king? Queen Glory. Favorite arc/book? Favorite arc is Arc 2, and favorite book is, again, Book 8. Least favorite queen or king? Definitely Glacier. And what are your plans for the future? I'm going to live alone in an apartment with 2 cats, and I want to be self-sufficient. Preferably self-employed with whatever the heck I can do to make that happen. Chirp Zerp Comics asks, what's your favorite type of bird, and what do you think about the loss of animus magic? My favorite type of bird is a blue jay, and I don't know. I don't feel, because we're only 3 books into the 3rd arc, I don't feel like I can reasonably make an argument about animus magic loss yet. But from what I can tell right now, it's a cheap plot device, and I really hope that's not what it turns out to be, because it's something that could be used smartly. I hope that Tui can, finagle it into something that makes sense, because right now it just seems pretty too convenient. Abigail Butler asks, who's your favorite background character? Dragons like Carnelian, Webbs, and Sora, who had little parts. Probably Sora. The first time I read Moon Rising, that was a big twist, the fact that she was the one that started it. At least for me. I know some people saw it coming, but I didn't, and I thought it was a really cool twist. I also just like her as a character. I felt like the twist made sense for her, and I felt like the character just seems very quiet and shy, and I like that. I can relate to that. Daniel P. asks, if Wings of Fire and another book series characters met and were in the same book, what other book series characters would you want to meet the dragons and why? I think probably the characters from the Shadowhunters series, just because they already deal with so much weird stuff that I don't think they would care. Or stuff from Percy Jackson. Anything that has magic or mythology or anything like that, they're not gonna care if dragons come, so they could probably make friends, which is what I like. Abigail Davison asks, how many chickens does it take to kill an elephant? I haven't checked. I'll have to get back to you on that. Also, congrats on 2K, that's really big. Please don't remind me, it's terrifying. Blast the Nightwing Skywing Hybrid asks, how did you get into Wings of Fire, and why do you like it so much? I got into Wings of Fire through my mom, actually, who randomly brought home the first 2 books, and I was hooked from then on. I like it so much. I've tried to figure this out, and the best answer I can come up with at this moment is that I really like how the dragons have human thoughts and feelings, that they're actual, that they have minds, that they can actually think. Because a lot of the time in media, dragons will be portrayed as either really evil or really nice, and there's no in-between. So I feel like that in-between the Wings of Fire portrays, it's very relatable, and I like it. What are some tips you have if you just started out with drawing? So practice would be the main thing, and I know everyone hates to say that, but it is true. you can't give up, because if you just stop for a couple days and because you don't think it's good, you're not going to improve. You have to keep trying. I would also say experiment, do random doodles, figure out a different way to draw something, study anatomy of actual animals. Especially for drawing dragons, I would try big cats like panthers, because their anatomy and the way that they can gracefully move seems very similar to oppose that of a dragon. So study anatomy, I would say experiment, and always keep practicing. Gentry of Cloud Clan asks, what's your favorite kind of rock? Amethyst, because it's my birthstone. Phosphor asks, favorite and least favorite fruit? Mango and not a fan of plums. Least favorite Wings of Fire ship? Anything that involves the Dragonets of Destiny being shipped together. Except for Sunny Flight, I can get Sunny Flight, but everything else, it's just kind of weird. Like, they're all seen as siblings to each other. I don't understand why you would ship them. Opinions on the drink tea. I do like tea, but coffee's better hands down. And favorite OC. Oh, that's a tricky one because it changes a lot. But I would say probably Cascade. I've drawn him like 15, 16 times. I like the design, and I love drawing jewelry, so he's an excuse to draw more jewelry. Twilight Heinzen asks, what's your favorite color? Blue. Mars Art Galaxy asks, I would like to ask a few questions. What's the best way to spend a rainy afternoon? A glass of ice water, a really, really good book, and all day in bed. There you go. If Mars was livable, would you pack your bags and move? No, I like it here. It's difficult, but I feel like it wouldn't stop being difficult if we went to Mars. That would just be avoiding our problems, which I know by experience does not work. If you had to flee the country, where would you flee to? Probably Canada. I've heard it's nice there. What's the silliest thing you've heard people say / repeat to you before? There are so many. Well, but most of the time I've heard, mostly from straight guys, that I'm not actually lesbian, and if I dated them, then I would stop being lesbian. It's not how it works, honey. And finally, how did you figure out Santa Claus isn't real? I was never told that he was real, honestly. We grew up in a household where my mom and dad didn't want to lie to us, to me and my brother. So we were kind of always told he's not real. Some people do teach that to their kids, so don't ruin it for their kids, but he's not real, and we're just gonna have Christmas without it. And it was fine. It's been fine the entire time. I don't feel like my childhood was lost or anything like that because I didn't know. I feel like it was better, actually, because I didn't have to go through the, wait, my parents lied to me all these years kind of thing. Yeah. Ainsley Dolan asks, what do you like to eat for breakfast, and what's your favorite song? I don't usually eat breakfast. I usually have a big lunch, and my favorite song changes every 5 minutes, but at the moment it is Leave Me Behind by CG5 and another artist whose name I always forget. Dubest Chef XD asks, do you like to cook? Also, play Among Us, or I myself will chop you up and cook you, JK. The last bit was a bit worrying, but I don't like to cook, no, and I do play Among Us already. I was actually thinking of doing a video on it at some point, but I'm still wary about it because it feels like going along with the crowd, and I'm not a fan of that. And finally, for the last YouTube question, we have Professor Turtle Queen, who asks, gender identity and pronouns. I want to make sure I use the right ones. At the moment, my gender is yes, because I don't like to have a label for it, but I do use they, them pronouns. Alright, so that is it for the YouTube portion of the questions. We're going to head on over to Wattpad and see what you guys have to say there. We have 3 questions from Explore Imagination 3. Number 1, how do you get ideas for your amazing books? Thank you. I actually use this book most of the time. It varies, but I'll usually use this book called The Emotional Womb Thesaurus, which is amazing. it has a list of all sorts of struggles and problems that you're, mostly mental, that your character can go through. And I like to flip through it and pick one, and I'll usually center a character around that. Or I'll have some sort of phenomenon or some kind of phobia or some kind of fear and base it around that. I like to have shocking or depressing or sad stories, so basing them around emotional wounds I find really helps to develop the character and therefore the story itself. And number 2, how do you spend your time during the quarantine in between using Wattpad and making videos on YouTube? I don't really. I'll draw, but other than that, Wattpad and YouTube pretty much is what I do. It's not work that I go back and forth between. It's those two are hobbies, more than anything else. And maybe, I could monetize my channel, and then, I could right now, but I don't want to risk losing a bunch of subscribers, and I don't feel like I need to at the moment. So right now, they're just hobbies, and that's pretty much how I spend my time, is just that. And the final question from Explore Imagination is, how did you become such an amazing artist? That would definitely be the same thing that I said when I was asked tips for becoming a better artist. That's just it. You have to practice, you have to experiment. And I looked at everyone else's and saw what made it good and tried to implement it in my own art. Andromeda asks, what was your favorite Wings of Fire book to write and why? So for those of you who don't follow me on Wattpad, I do fan fictions on Wings of Fire. And the favorite one to draw was definitely Pain, just because the experience that I had with a toxic relationship myself, I related to passion in a very real and raw and personal way. So it was more fun to write, and it was easier to write in a way because it was more like my actual experiences. Acidic Wolf asks, how did you find Wattpad or come across it? I actually came across Wattpad from my friend who we made a joint account together, and we were going to write some stories, but at some point I started writing the fanfiction Flurries and Fury, which is now Fury on my Wattpad, and that was my very first Wings of Fire fanfiction ever. Daniel at that point didn't know about Wings of Fire, so I wanted to make my own account for it. And so I did, and that's it. Glory the Queen 101 asks, are you a human? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am. Vera Does Stuff asks, do you find villains sexy? You gotta stop calling me out like this. Yes, I do, most of the time. It'll be any movie except Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm always rooting for the villains. It doesn't matter how evil their plot is. Why are the villains always the best? Seriously. Dauntless Shadow Ice 1 asks, if you weren't human, what would you be? Real or fictional species? Well, my entire channel and YouTube and Wattpad account is based around Wings of Fire, which is a dragon teen series. So I feel like maybe you could figure that out. I'm just saying. But yes, I would absolutely be a dragon. Tragedied asks, do you like Marvel/MCU? If so, then who's your favorite character? I do, and my favorite character is Iron Man. Sewer Savage 163 asks, have you seen My Pride? Yes, I have, and it is the best thing ever. For those of you who have not seen it, it is a cartoon lion series with several episodes on YouTube. I think they're up to like episode 6 maybe. Eucalypse asks, how do you like your eggs? Changes most of the time. Basically any way except scrambled, and preferably with hash browns. Jelly Bagel asks, what would your preferred weapon of choice be? And do you consider yourself more of a toaster, a microwave, or a dishwasher? Preferred weapon of choice would be a staff, so that I can pretend that I am old and just weak, and then I use it and I go like this and I kick out their legs and then they fall down. I shouldn't be smiling, but I consider myself more of a microwave. Catnat101 asks, what's your weirdest obsession? Wings of Fire? Not really because of the obsession itself, but because of how long it's gone on. Like, I've loved it for what I started when I was like 11 or 12, I guess. I don't remember, but it's been like 2 or 3 years, and I'm still not over it. Baby Vive asks, one guilty pleasure you have? These Q&As, probably. I just really like being asked questions, and I like to talk about myself because I'm a human being and we're pretty self-centered sometimes. Vera Does Stuff asks, is this the real life or just a fantasy? I think that's something we all have to interpret for ourselves, my friend. JV Painter asks, if you could create a fan tribe, what would it be called and what would they look like? I actually did make a fan tribe. I made 5, but the one that I'm still keeping is called Vault Wings. They're basically sky wings, but they have blue scales and they got zigzag scales too. And their horns are shaped like lightning and they can breathe lightning. And that's pretty much it. They're not very interesting, but I made them when I was first starting out with Wings of Fire, so they're not very inventive. Avantocrats asks, my question is, how many drafts of books do you have right now? You know, books that you never finished creating or that you unpublished. So I unpublished my art book number 1 because of the amount of hate and because people kept insisting that I change a certain thing about a drawing that I had already trashed a year ago. And also Loyalty, which is the fan fiction that only got to like the first or second chapter before I stopped. And let's see here. What is your favorite thing ever to say? Definitely ye. I say that a lot randomly. Lorix asks, how long did it take to get such awesome art skills? I don't know if I would call my art awesome yet, but I am always trying to improve, and I would say as long as I started. Like, it's just constantly trying to get better, and at the moment, I only really started to drastically improve for like the last 2 or 3 years, so it's taken a while. Exotic Maze asks, LMAO, if you had to be stuck in a room with someone for 3 years, who would it be? Depends on what you mean by someone. Does it have to be a person? Because if not, my cats. And then, if it does have to be a person, then myself. I ain't spending a room with anyone else for 3 entire years. No, thank you. Axolotl42 asks, what sort of melon do you consider yourself to be? Watermelon, definitely. Alright everyone, and that is the end of our Q&A. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. And if you wanted to have a question but didn't manage to, you are more than welcome to put it down in the comment section below and I will answer in a reply. That is merely if you literally cannot wait to do it though. I am planning to do a Q&A later on. So thank you to everyone who watched, and I hope you have a great day. Ultimate out.